So hi everybody. This is our fourth session. So as always, we can start with a check-in. If you've got anything you want to share or any questions that have come up, then let me know. Who wants to start?
May as well start seeing I'm this close to the computer right now.
Okay.
um,
Are you feeling better?
yeah, I mean it's wiped me out. Yeah, I'm not testing positive anymore, so that's good. Um, but yeah, I literally went into then assisting with an internal family systems therapy training for 6 days, 11 hours a day, no weekend or anything. So then, like, I got back at late last night and then straight back to work again this morning, and I've just got back about 10 minutes ago. So yeah, my whole thing about inner dance is just like, inner dance, what's that? So literally haven't done any, haven't looked refreshed at any of the talks or anything like that. Which I feel a bit kind of a bit disappointed about. But hopefully now I'll have a bit more practical space and headspace to kind of go and mop up the backlog. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got lots of time to go through things.
Yeah, exactly. And I just knew that like it was all consuming on the training, and I got really, really stuck in a I can't part, like in a really deficient, I'm a shit therapist, everyone else could do this, I can't. So yeah, it feels like there's a lot internally and externally. But I'm feeling pretty good. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of been spat out the other side of like the whatever it was. And yeah, just feeling quite grounded and just needing to rest. But yeah, so
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you've been in quite a process from
Mm.
last week, and yeah, and how it worked out that you were able to be here for the call as well, and it was like everything was molding.
Yeah, in a very
Yeah.
non-stop way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully
Hi, Kerry.
I can rest over the weekend, so that will help, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, glad you're out the other side and
Yeah.
ready for the next layer. To
Yeah. Never ending
yeah.
loads. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sharing. Mm, who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't here last Tuesday, but I have caught up on the video, and yeah, I thought it was really good. I loved the depth. I think I just want to say it's really worth, I think, listening to the video a few times before people come on the training in September. Um, I mean, I find that my concentration, I find it hard absorbing information sometimes when I concentrate and I hear so much and then my mind goes off somewhere. So for me, repetition is so important. And every time I hear about the 12 stages and look at it, I feel something different. And I was feeling the depth seemed to have dropped in more in the words and the descriptions of the 12 stages. So that was really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? How you hear it and then you hear it again and then again, or you speak it, and then oh, okay, there's that. Oh, there's that. And yeah, I couldn't sleep for ages after last week. I was like, so much talking. There was still a couple of things at about 3 in the morning. I thought, oh yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. So there's so much, yeah, so much that you can bring from it. And at the beginning, it seems like, okay, there's these just 12 stages, and these are the names of them, say. But then when you experience it more, and especially when you facilitate people and the patterns and the things that you see showing up, it will expand depth of it. And it will, yeah, like Fee said, it starts to make more and more and more sense.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's
Fee.
amazing. Just one word, there is just so much behind that one word, and the word can just be from so many different perspectives, depending on the time and place you're in. And there's so many like portals linking that word to more stuff and more stuff. It's just so brilliant.
Yeah, and also when you've gone through the process in a really deep way as well, it's like that those stages maybe where you have resistance to, or you felt really stuck with, or some that you're like, oh yeah, I love this part of it, and it takes on a different kind of meaning.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, thanks. Um, yeah, and one of the things I didn't say, which was quite a recent realization I had, was that you could look at the stages in terms of 7 year gaps as like 0 to 7 and then 7 to 8 to 14, and sort of look at it through a lifespan. And this can be quite interesting as well, because you can look back with that in mind at your life to date and see which years the stage is represented. So like for me, in the threshold is like teenage times, and this kind of like fuck this, and like this kind of really having so much information coming in and not being able to speak about it, or feel like, yeah, that usual thing of not being understood, but then feeling like the whole universe was inside of me trying to speak, and then just okay, fuck this shit, and realizing that that's like something that's shown up many many times in my life, of like being at that stage, and having these really big like chop, and then completely turning everything on its head. So it can be quite revelatory to look at it in that way, and just go through the 7 years. So yeah, okay, who's next? Who wants to share?
I don't mind going next.
Mhm.
I've just listened to Catherine's playlist again. I think one thing that keeps coming up for me, not in the playlist, just generally, is I'm very much a last minute person. So like I love innerdance and I'm really enthusiastic about it, but I wait until like the last minute. So like I put it on at like 5:30 or 5:15 and was like, oh, I need to like cram this in. And I thought I've enjoyed it when I've listened to it before, but today I think because I was agitated, I was like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And I've just had a bit of and I know that doesn't work when you're listening to a playlist with a set time. But I think it's highlighted for me as well. I need to kind of get my priorities right, and I think I've misread the messages as well. And I've had a go of making a little playlist just on Spotify. I know we're going to get to the techie bit, but I was getting frustrated at if I'm not good at something straight away, I'm like, oh fuck this shit. And so I've done it via Spotify, and that's okay. But I can see it's quite for me, I find it's going to be quite a process just making the playlists. Never mind doing the doing the
Everyone's
sessions.
like, yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't happen in order. It happened in a funny way. Well, I guess it happened as it was meant to. So, yeah, I need to sort my life out a bit, but I'll get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great though that you've begun with it as well. If you want to share it, if you can do a link, then you can
I
listen.
can't. I'm very happy to, and I nearly did. And then my pride, until I've listened to it all the way through myself, I'm like, oh, should I? Shouldn't I? Like, what if I've done it
Yeah.
wrong? But yeah, I'm happy to, and would welcome any feedback on that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be great. And you're kind of ahead of the game, because when we finish, you know, like next week with the last session, that was going to be a homework for everybody, which can still be a homework, is to start working on a playlist. So yeah, please share it. And yeah, and I know it's so nerve-wracking, and feeling like you've kind of put this stamp as like that song is in that place, and then so yeah, it is a process, because you're going through the process when you're creating it, and you're listening to these songs again and again and again, and like, oh, should it be in this order or that order? And yeah, it does take you through it. So that's why I said last week, it is really important for you to do it for yourself and not use somebody else's. I mean, maybe down the line it might be that you use each other's playlists or something, but for this initial part, it's really good to do it yourself. Excuse me. So yeah, good. Thank you. Joe, do you want to share? Hello.
Yeah, hello. I re-listened to Catherine's playlist today. Also a last minute person, but not quite as last minute at 5:30. It was a completely different experience the second time round. I've just been on a trip in the camper van with my dog, and so I spent this morning on the beach trying to relax as much as possible before heading home. And so I wasn't anxious when I started listening to it this time. And I remember very, very vividly last time when I started listening to it and I heard the heartbeat, it set me off almost. It made me more anxious than I already was. And then obviously there's a middle section where that heartbeat's going crazy. And I got a million times worse with it. But this time the heartbeat felt a lot more protective, nurturing, like a good thing. It was a positive sound rather than a negative sound. So it was a completely different experience, which I found really fascinating. And I feel like now I know a little bit more about the stages and everything that goes into it. I can sense how much work you put into that, Catherine. I can hear all that. There's so many different bits that you've put in there. I can sort of, even my inexperienced ears can sense a little bit of how much work you put into that. So yeah, that was really fascinating. Have we got the link to the first one you sent us? Is that in the group?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to do that
in
one
the
as well.
Google Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the different links are in there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. My week in general has been absolutely shocking. So I'm in the middle of trying to sell my house, and my buyer pulled out yesterday. So it's been extremely stressful. Yeah, what do you do with that? Like he just isn't buying my house anymore. So I am having to scramble and relist it and try and find another one before the one I want to buy disappears into the sunset. So that's been horrendous. And one of my friends fell out with me. That was fun. So it's been a really shit week. Oh God. And I'm trying to be away on this trip with my dog, and she's been the most stressed I've ever seen her. Has been in that car when we were driving from one place to the next. I've never seen her be as stressed as that. She seems to have got a phobia to the van now. She refuses to get back in it. So that's been awful. Yeah, it's been a bit shit really. So I'm hoping next week's better.
Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah, hopefully somebody even better will come, and if the house you wanted goes, you'll find something even better than that. It always shows up in that way.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the trust, isn't it,
I find that
of
really
waiting
hard.
and
The trusting in the universe when things don't go your way. I find that really hard, because I know what I want, right? Like that house that I'm buying, I want that house. It's perfect for me. It's perfect in every way. However, to sell this one first. So that's the panic, is that I'll lose the house I want.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're in that limbo place, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Which is a bit how inner dance sessions can be. Okay, just gonna hold you there and you're like, no. Yeah, you're gonna stay there.
I kind of felt like that with Catherine's playlist in the middle. Like the first bit, beautiful, handpan, love handpan. And then it builds and builds. And then it gets to this like peak that I expected to end a lot sooner than it ended. And it's like holding me in this like discomfort. And yeah, that's how I felt.
Yeah. So yeah, so you could look at it as a training. Inner dance is also a training for buying and selling houses.
Yeah.
How to navigate that shit show. Okay. Well, yeah, and interesting you say about your friend as well, because this sort like relationships, friendships, and yeah, everything starts to get stirred up. And people come in, people go out. Maybe they go out for a while, then they come back again, and some people go for good. And yeah, it's just the way. Yeah. When the very first inner dance session that I did in England when I met Kerry, somebody was, well, actually she organized it for me, and I considered her one of my like long-term best friends of 11 years. And when she sat up at the end of the session, I happened to be standing in front of her, and we looked at each other in the eyes, and I thought, something, what the fuck has just happened? It was like I knew something had changed forever, and it was just, and yeah, and that was it. And then other things happened, and yeah, never spoken to each other since. And that was a huge shock for me, and a really, I didn't even see it coming. When I looked back afterwards, I could see these different things and thought, oh, okay. But yeah, never would have imagined what then went on to happen would do. So yeah, so you just don't know from which sort of angle things are going to shift, and whatever isn't sort of positive in our lives is going to change. It doesn't mean everything and everyone is going to like disappear, but it's yeah, things will shift. Yeah. And continue to do so. So it's like a rejiggling of who's in your life, and then also for you to choose who you want to be in your life as well. That's that's the other part of it. Yeah, it's a journey with the relationships. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Is anything else?
No, that's enough.
Hey, Katie, you're on mute. Yeah, that's it.
Hello. I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's been I've had quite a challenging week really. I am currently on my last placement of my degree, and I'm really struggling. So I'm a little bit wondering what on earth I'm doing, adding things on top. And maybe there's something in there, as in what I think my capacity is and my ability is, and I go off to do something, and then actually the way I'm built, I don't fit in. It doesn't work. I'm like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, in the NHS in a hospital at the minute, which I know in my calm, grounded self, that's not anywhere near really where I want to be. But for some reason, I've got involved in this, and I'm nearly at the end, so I want to finish it. And it's just all consuming, and I'm sort of close to not passing. So as far as innerdance has been, there hasn't been much room for anything else. And I've been thinking that today, it was like, what am I doing? Because but I'm putting myself back in that position that I feel like I hated at school, like I'm the naughty schoolgirl turning up here and not having done my work, and it's like you keep putting yourself in this situation, don't you, to feel like this. Somehow in my head it was like, oh, September, yeah, and this is just a couple of hours a week, and that's fine. I'll be able to do both. So yes, kind of interesting and a bit tricky. But oddly enough, the songs have been appearing, which is kind of like the one thing that I was just like, I know we're not asking anything external, but I've sat down and had the thought, and I was like, I just need the songs. I need them to come. And I was driving down the road with my phone out of the window the other day because a man drove past me blasting a song out, and I all of a sudden was like, winding my window down, caught up with him at the next traffic lights and shazammed what this like Bollywood song that he was playing. I was like, that's it. So it's sort of running underneath the surface more, you know, at the minute, I think. So
Yeah.
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 So yeah, things I knew this would be shaken up, but then you get faced with that part of your ego that's like, well, I wanted to choose not to do it. I didn't want to have it chosen for me. But it's all
Yeah.
there.
No, I'm really glad that you're here.
You?
Yeah. And you know from the first training that, yeah, it brings this stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like another layer in the spiral, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I could feel it coming anyway. It's not a surprise. It's just that, oh, now it's time. Now you're dealing with it. And I may make it through the placement, but it's just had to be that sort of like, I don't know, wobble. I know it's not. I don't know if I don't know if the whole thing is like, don't get any ideas. You're not going to work there. But yes, my dyslexic ADHD brain is programmed, built for the new world, not the old one.
Well, that's why you're here, to be part of creating it.
Yes, yeah.
Mm. You are creating it just by being you.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and as you were talking, and I was thinking about with the 12 stages, that it's like for each of you that you're going to be moving between them at different times while we're doing the training as well. So like before the trainings, the last years when it was just the 5 days, I started to realize that within that I saw each day the group and me would be going through certain stages, until the reintegration at the end. And I was thinking, I wonder how it's going to be, because we've got so much longer and doing it online as well, and how that's going to shift the way that we also work through the stages. So it kind of feels a bit like in this like choice, like well, yeah, awakening, but I always call it choice, even though choice is number 8. But this sort of halfway point of like, am I going to do this? Like, am I going to sort of push through these challenges? And yeah, so maybe for each of you, you could have a look at the chart later and sort of get a feel maybe for where it's taking you. Thanks, Katie. Catherine.
Yeah, I can't believe it's Tuesday. I don't know where my week has gone. I listened to your playlist twice. Um, and both times were very, very different. But I found myself almost, I suppose, not selfish this week, but when I've wanted to do something, that's what I've done. And it was after the second time I listened. So I found like I want to go to the beach and I want to swim every day, and we only live 8 minutes from it. But I've been waiting for Rob to finish work, whereas now I'm making him take 2 hours in the middle of the day so we can go when it's nice and warm, so I'm not freezing coming out. And I've been super productive. But I've been thinking a lot about the playlist because the 12 stages, and after my training, I think I came away with 4 words for each stage. And that drove me insane when I was trying to do my first one. So I found now is I put it all onto a like not a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint, and I put some of Pi's description, and I've just added and added and added to it. So it's gone from 4 words to this sheet of paper with scribbles and everything else. Like now I think I got almost 3 pages per stage. It's been really interesting to go back and look how my understanding has changed and how simple, how just a single word on each stage can just completely change every time you sort of listen to it. And then I was thinking about making the when I did that short 5-wave playlist, and Katie asked me to do it. I had mixed them before, but I'd mainly done just 12 songs, maybe with a second layer. So this was the first time that I'd really done more than 2 layers. And I think it's got 19 layers altogether over those 5 stages. And as Katie knows, I sent it to her first before sending it to the group, and I still needed that validation. I had a full temper, not a temper tantrum, full sort of child's tantrum going, I can't send it, and everybody's going to hate it, and it's all going to be terrible. So I would really encourage you to share them, because once you do, it just feels so much different. But I still had a toddler tantrum and cried, and Rob was like, I've listened to it 5 times now, Catherine, it's fine, send it. But I found I still needed the validation. It was really interesting. And that's me.
Okay, thank you. Kerry, anything to share?
I think I said last week that it's all a bit stressy here at the moment, and this is always, I think, really quite a tricky part of the year for me anyway. And I look back over, I don't know, I don't know how long, but this has always been and nothing on the level. No, nobody's pulled out by my house, and I'm not about to fail my final placement or anything like that. But we live in a very small village, and the villagers don't like we've put a shed up, and they don't like the shed. And instead of coming and talking to me about it, it's like being back at school. They've sent us to Coventry, and they won't speak to us. And it is just, this time last year, people who know me will remember that I was in a very, should I move, should I not move, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And having made that decision, and now we're here, and it just, at the moment, just feels a bit shitty. I love where we are. I love the country. I love the walks that we do. I love all of that. But the small-minded people are getting to me somewhat. Anyway, I have not listened to playlists. I am desperate to get back to playlisting at the moment, but I'm just so bogged down with other bits at the moment that that's escaping me. I'm looking forward to maybe some peace and quiet in August, where I can either go back to Hokusai that I use a lot and love, or have another go with Audacity. I'm halfway through one in Audacity, and it's just sat for a month. So anyway, that's me. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and yeah, the week has gone so fast for me as well. And but I had something, I was watching a talk about cortisol that Kerry shared with me, and it brought me some clarity about what was happening in my body, especially when I was a child. Because although I understood it from lots of other different perspectives, I there was this kind of one missing link in this sentence that he said about the knock-on effect with cortisol and the adrenals and things. And so watching it was really like, oh wow, okay, this is what was happening in my body, which led to other things. And so this, yeah, it was like a massive piece of a puzzle for me, and sort of brought, I guess, some kind of closure for that. So that was kind of a surprise. That, yeah, I was just really happy that I was watching this neuroscience video, and I was like, oh, finally, I understand. So yeah, so thanks, Kerry, for that. It was really nice. And yeah, and just I kind of found, like when you have these internal chats with yourself that could be at any time, and like anytime it can jump in, I can hear myself as if I'm talking to you all now, going through something, and I'm like, just stop. It's not for another 5 days. and this stuff keeps coming in, and I sort of have to like let it kind of talk its way through, and then like, okay, put it on the shelf till Tuesday. So so let's I've got a kind of list of lots of bits that are all important, but yeah, there'll be different topics, because last week was very much like one massive thing. So I think first of all, I wanted to talk about holding space. Like we hear this, oh, I was holding space for my friend, or I was holding space for a group. And what does it really mean? Because somebody made up that sentence at some point about holding space. And nobody really questions what it is, or what it can be, and what's supposed to happen within that, or what's not supposed to happen within that. And different people have experiences of feeling they've not been held in a space. So yeah, I wanted to get some ideas from all of you about what it means to you to hold space, or when you've felt held, maybe when you've gone to a workshop or a training, or yeah, anything. So, and it can be anything at all. It doesn't have to be a big, profound.
I don't mind sharing.
Mhm.
I think for me, it's to hold space for others. It's more about creating the environment for them to receive whatever it is that they need, and personally to let go of control what I think that should be. And I think in my experience, I've sometimes had to go places to see how, where I haven't felt held, that's where I've learned how to do it for others. It's not been, oh, that was really good, I felt really held. It's more, well, that was awful, or I didn't feel validated, or what. And that's where I've been like, okay, I'll make sure. And the reason that I believe that's happened is so I can make sure that I don't do that to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I've had the same. I've had some really amazing teachers, and then I've had some fucking awful vampires, and it's like, okay, that's how you don't do things. So yeah, massive learnings in that. And when you said about the, like, yeah, the space, like the physical space, do you mean in how it's like set up from a, like things laid out when people arrive, or in what way?
Well, like the physical space, but also it's setting the parameters of what, not rules and such, but what to expect. Like setting those boundaries in place of, not of how people want to share, what the purpose of this space is for, not encroaching on other people, those kind of boundaries, so that people know how to, I was going to say know how to behave. That's not exactly what I mean, because people should be free to express how they want, but it's not a place for you to just come and offload all of your shit, trauma dump on everybody. It's or to make everything about you. It's to have a space held for you, but also to be able to hold it for other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Oh, 1 second. I need to plug my laptop and I haven't got an adapter. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, thanks, Lucy. Okay, so anybody else?
Yeah, I think very similar to Lucy. I've learnt how it is I want space to be held for me by people doing it wrong. So I've exactly the same. I've learned what not to do, more than what to do. And for me, it's almost entirely about feeling safe. So whether that is the environment, like the physical setting, or whether that's the creating of the boundaries and the rules and the expectations. But for me, it's being able to feel safe enough to be vulnerable and to be me, and to say what I need to say, or to not say what I don't want to say. That safety bubble is for me the whole thing.
And do you think, and this is a question for everybody, that feeling of feeling safe, does it come from the physical space, or from the facilitator, or from both?
From both.
Both, yeah, from you both.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel equally, or it's one more than the other?
I think it's more from the facilitator than the physical space, because you could be in a physical space that there might be some risk things around that somebody might not be safe, but there's probably something you can do about them to make it a bit, you know, better. I think it's mainly from the facilitator.
Mm. Kerry, were you going to say something?
Fiona just said it really. So yeah, it's you know, and I think we've all done it. But you've been in some really grotty rooms, and they're not the nicest, and but actually, the session is still, it's fine because it's how you create that session for those people. Yeah.
Mm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And anything else, Joe?
No, that's pretty much my only goal. I think I've some of the really negative things I've experienced is I know a few people that think they're really, really good at holding space, but all they're doing is sitting and not even really acknowledging what the person is sharing. I think for me, it needs to be a two-way conversation. It needs to be reciprocity. I think the bad experiences I've had is where I feel like I'm being vulnerable and sharing, and instead of it being received, reflected, held, it's sort of just gone into the abyss. And then I'm sitting there thinking, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I hadn't said that. And it just takes away the safety. So I think there's a lot to be said for how it's received and what's done with it when it's out there.
And was it that you needed more of a reflective feedback on it, or if the facilitator had said thank you as an acknowledgement when you spoke, would that have been enough?
Acknowledgement would have been enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to add in about attunement. So when you're talking about that, sometimes for me, just having a acknowledgement isn't enough. Like I need almost like, you know, with the owls, like, you know, the mama owl eats it and then regurgitates it for a kid in a way that the kid can take it in. I think for me, it's like that attunement kind of bit where I'm being vulnerable, I'm being authentic, it's difficult, it's overwhelming. And if the facilitator just goes, thank you, it's not enough for me. It's like sometimes if I'm vulnerable, I need it to be taken in, need to know that it's kind of gone to their heart, like that they've really felt it, and then given it back to me in a way that I can use more easily. So I think there's something for me in that one.
And is that if you were one-to-one with somebody, or if you were in a bigger group?
In a group, yeah. So like when I do like breath work and people are kind of you know, kind of sharing a bit of their journey at the end, then yeah, it might be there's sometimes when it's just like, yeah, there's just the thank you, and then there's other times when you can feel, well, I feel like they need a bit more from me to really feel seen, to really feel got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I know for myself from holding groups, if there's a big group, even with less than 10 people, to give feedback to everybody when they share, it can be quite time consuming. And it's not because you don't want to, but it's literally because of the time frame. And over 10 as well, it can be impossible, even if you have up to an hour of time to share. By the time everybody's said something, give feedback within that, it could, yeah, it could potentially go on for a lot longer. So yeah, it's quite tricky to gauge this, and this will be something for yourselves as facilitators, and also because sometimes people say things and they want an interpretation, or because they get the idea that maybe you're picking up information about them that they perceive on a more psychic level, so they want like a mini reading at the end as their feedback. And or they want to, like, dream interpretation, they want to know what their visions mean, which of course, I mean, unless you really want to, but it's impossible to go around everybody and do that. And also to have for me, I don't want the pressure of that, of like everybody looking to me to give them an interpretation, or like a psych reading, which I could do it, but I don't want to do it in that situation. If it was one-to-one, maybe I might talk more, or if somebody's coming regularly, but to have that, to sort of go around one by one and do it, then I don't feel so much that I want to do that. So yeah, so it's kind of having the awareness of different people's needs, which, if, like Joe said, thank you would be enough, and then Chrissy's saying she wants something more, but when you first meet people in a session, we don't know that. So we're sort of trying to find this balance in between, that not to please everybody, but to hold everybody in a way that's kind of enough for them. And this can also be sometimes that people might come to you at the end afterwards and then speak more, and then you can give more feedback in that way. So this could be a way to do it. But if you get into the situation where people are like, she's interpreted this for this one, okay, well, so tell me about mine, and I saw this, and what does it mean, and what's going to happen in my life, and do you think I'm in this childhood trauma still? And it's never going to end.
Yeah, I think for me it's more just like reflecting back the emotion. Like, so it's not like needing to analyze or anything like that. It's just, for me, it's like there's an extra step that you can do in 1 or 2 sentences that will just deepen the connection or help the person feel like really seen, like just with 1 or 2 sentences. So not needing to, kind of do a whole psychic reading or anything.
Yeah.
I think body language goes a really long way when you're when you're getting that feedback from people, and how that people feel validated. And sometimes it's actually what people perceive more from our body language than our actual words. And I've been in courses and trainings where they might be asking for your feedback and saying the right things, but actually their body language isn't saying that. So I think it's really being aware of that. You give that person, if you're going around the room, your full attention, and that your body language is showing that.
Yeah, that you're there and you're really with them and focused.
That's right.
Yeah.
That you're present. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not thinking what you're going to be saying next. You're properly listening. Because if you're thinking what you're going to be saying next, you're not listening.
Yeah, and from what Chrissy, what you said as well, it sounds like it's an extension of the feeling of safety for you. If somebody gave you those sentence or two, it's sort of really helping you to get more relaxation in your experience and more integration. Yeah. Does that sort of resonate with you as to how it feels for you?
Yeah, I think it's like, if you put yourself out, like you're really authentic with your vulnerability, then for me, there's something about like just saying, yeah, thank you might be enough if like there's not enough, it'd be adequate if there's not enough time. But I think if someone then kind of feeds it back to me, then I feel really seen. Like I feel reciprocated, I feel met. Whereas like a thank you, like it just feels like it's just kind of gone into the ether and hasn't come back to me. I guess it's like it's that real need for mirroring. You know, it's like when we externalize something and we draw it, like we connect with it more. Like we see it on the outside, it's not just on the inside. And I think there's something in this process of like the other person given 1 or 2 sentences that just deepens the externalizing process. Like it's not just on the inside now. I've put it on the outside. I'm seeing like the emotion on your face, like the response that's come from you, and then your words show me that you've really got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this could also be something that if you did have a bigger group and you wanted to be able to give the space for people to be seen more, then you could also put them into partners to do an initial sharing in partners together and feedback to each other, then come back to the circle, and then you know that they've got this kind of like it's out, and then usually people can give a more concise sharing after that, which then you saying thank you also might then be enough. Or
Totally. I think it's like being a therapist and now doing breath work, like I can see that these really intense experiences that completely flood the nervous system, if I see some of my clients, you know, at the end of the session, they're like, that was fucking amazing, you know, they're full of woohoo, this was incredible. And then like, you know, I see them in a therapy session a couple of weeks later and some protector parts have just come back in and they've shut the whole process down because it was so intense. And when you then start to come down from the high, I think there's so much vulnerability that's left over that then the system has to shut it away. And then people are kind of doing this towards breath work. And I think for me, and I imagine it's going to be the same with innerdance, there needs to be such a focus on integration. And I think there's so many therapeutic modalities out there that, you know, psychedelic assisted therapy, let's go and blow our nervous systems out the water, have these really intense, amazing experiences. And then there's no integration. So either the system exiles it back out and suppresses it, or it's just, you know, it's just this amazing experience, but you're not actually taking the learnings that you're, you know, the somatic learnings, the changes in your system that could really, really happen from this intense experience. So much of it just being pissed into the wind. Like, and I think that's what I really see. And so I think when you've got something that kind of brings it together and feeds it back, I think it really helps the integration.
And that's part of in the 12 stages, the last part is the integration, so that your body can feedback, our bodies can feedback to ourselves as well, and find these connection points so that the changes that have happened in the session stay changed, and it's not just a big rush of like you say, and because of course we don't want people to burn their nervous systems out. So but yeah, lots of people can feel really high after it, and this has been something that's come up in innerdance, especially in the last couple of years, more because of the cap that I told you about, I think the first week that was an offshoot that this other guy created or put together, that is really chasing the high, and how this has caused this problem of people pushing and pushing for dopamine again and again and again, and and not allowing any kind of understanding to come from the lessons or the insights that they get within innerdance. So yeah, this is really important, if not the most important thing. Otherwise, like you say, there's no point, because it's like smash everything or bring it all up and then okay, it's gone again. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Hey, anyone else? Any thoughts?
I think holding space has changed for me an awful lot. I think in the beginning, um, it was very much a buzzword to hold safe space. Everywhere you'd go, there'd be safe space. I'd be creating safe space. And after a while, I realised that I couldn't create safe space for everyone. It was impossible. What I needed as a safe space and what somebody else needed for a safe space was so different. And I think for me, it's become much more about integrity, and how important it is to hold my own integrity, to create and to hold any space. I recently did a breath work in a festival, where we were told, I've done quite a lot of breath work, so I was okay, but we were told that nobody would be able to support us for 45 minutes afterwards because the facilitators would need time. And it was quite an intense breath work at times. And I knew I was okay because I knew that I could reintegrate myself. But it did sort of flick through my head the whole time. There are going to be people here who can't do that, who won't be able to hold themselves together for 45 minutes while the facilitators calm their systems down. And that really, it's really made me think about that integration time afterwards, and how you bring it all back together. And I've mainly learned how to hold space by being in situations where it's been awful, where I could almost tell right from the beginning that the parameters haven't been set, the boundaries haven't been put up, so that nobody really knows what they're going into, and then it just causes this chaos. But again, I think integrity and you holding your own integrity is what holds the space.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. And also, if you're wanting to hold a space where people feel that they can trust and surrender into the process, if you don't know what a safe space is yourself, as in your body being a safe, feeling safe in your body, you're not going to be able to hold it. Or this is for anyone. You're not going to be able to hold an external like physically safe space for other people. And partly it comes back to grounding, like everything, and like being in your body, and trusting your own body as well, and really knowing that, like, you're okay, whatever is happening in your life, like, you're okay in your body. And this will reflect. So you could be in a muddy field, you could be in a super fancy 5-star hotel doing it in the conference room, you could be anywhere at all, because part of it as well is you as the facilitator not making a kind of big deal out of how fancy or not the space is. But yeah, really coming back to this, like, you as your home, like your safe space is you. And this is going to emanate to everybody else, because they'll feel how comfortable you are in you. And yeah, this is going to automatically reflect. So this is something also, like, I think holding space, we get better and better at it the more that we do it. And when I first started teaching Reiki in 2000, holding space wasn't even a word or a sentence. It was just like, you're going to teach a Reiki workshop. And and how that's come in over the years. But also for me, because I'm traveling a lot and I can't often carry many things, so, and also it's very rare that I'll get to see the space that I'm going to be facilitating in before the actual session, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour before or something. So it's not like for somebody who's got a regular venue that they use and they know the setup and they know how the lights are and there's this window that doesn't close properly. Or so I have to be really prepared for anything and able to manage that. And I wouldn't be able to do it unless I was really sort of in myself and really trusting that, okay, it might be like this or might not be quite the way I want it, but the process is still going to be able to happen anyway. So this is something first and foremost to think about. Do you feel safe in your own body? Is your body a place that you can trust? And if you don't feel safe in yourself, then yeah, this is something that's going to get worked on and that you can work on for yourself. But it will be something through this training as well that you're going to come into more peace with. Yeah. Any other thoughts with that? No? Okay. And well, I can just add something else as well. Because in terms of the physical space, I feel that it's really personal also to each of us in the way that we want to present it. So a good example is Tom, who's another trainer, and he's based in England. We taught quite a few trainings together in Paris, and he really loves to have everything set out so that when the people arrive, the mats are in a circle, like sun rays coming out, and everything. His notebooks are like in place next to the speaker, like you name it, he's done it, he's thought about it. I'm like, okay, get your mat, go wherever you want to go. and like I let people just choose where. I don't really like to have people in a circle. This is one thing. I have done lots of sessions in that format, but I feel it can be a bit restrictive for people to move and me to get to them. But yeah, I'm much more of, okay, get your mat, grab a pillow, get what you need to, and I'm much more like kind of do it yourself. And because probably I'm trying to get the speaker to work or something. And also lots of people like to create altars and things like this, so with crystals, with flowers, with I don't know, anything, sheep's heads, like thing, whatever they can take, people like to have it. And for me, again, because of traveling, I can't carry all of this stuff, but also I find it really faffy. Like I don't feel that I need that, as I don't feel like it enhances what I'm going to do. It looks beautiful when people walk in and there's these like gorgeous roses or like a huge crystal or singing bowl or something in the middle, and I'm always like, ah, shit. I never do things like this, and then the next moment I'm like, ah, no. so this is, yeah, it's your choice with it. And how I know some people, they take fairy lights, they put them around the room, and they do lots of things to decorate the space, and it looks beautiful. But I'm really like as simple as simple can be, and yeah, and that just suits me. So this is, yeah, totally up to you in the way that you want to do it. Mm. And the other thing as well about holding space that I feel is that people can be who they are and not feel afraid of that and not feel shame about it. So they can crumble and fall to pieces and be in their total messy vulnerability and know that they're not going to be judged. That it's a space where this is possible. And in inner dance, if you want to have a tantrum like a 2-year-old, you can totally do that. And it's and no one's going to bat an eyelid about it. Where else in society can you do that? There's nowhere. So I feel for me this space holding is like they can be whatever, they can do whatever, as long as they're not hurting somebody or hurting themselves. Saying that, I've punched myself in the face and stomach plenty of times in these sessions, but that was just me doing that. But you don't want people to be injured or or like another time I tried to jump off some balcony stairs as well. So not because I wanted to hurt myself, just because there was something I needed to like express out of my system. So, but I didn't do it. Well, the facilitator stopped me from doing it. So I'm quite on a probably extreme end sometimes of how I'm expressing things. But I can be very still and just completely inside as well. But you're going to sometimes have people who only know how to express by harming themselves. So this is a part of patterns that show up in people's bodies, in maybe that's the only way that they know how to feel, or how to get it out of themselves. So it's having an allowance of space. And this doesn't always mean physical space, because I've had sessions where literally people are sardines and overlapped with each other, and they're still moving, and we've done the session. And other times where there's huge amounts of space between people. So it's more that there's space for them to expand whatever needs to be expanded, and that they know that there's going to be the integration, as we mentioned, that things are going to come back together in a different way, and they can leave as integrated and with a level of calmness. So this is always really important to me, that my hope is that people feel that they can go to places that they've been afraid to go to. And for me as the facilitator, because of where I've been to in my own sort of self-healing and in my own inner dance journeys, I don't hold a fear around that. So because as soon as, for us as facilitators, if we're holding fear, then this is going to also ripple into the room and affect different people to different degrees. So it doesn't mean that you're like, oh yeah, just whatever's going to happen and it will be fine. You're still going to have that awareness, and you're still keeping an eye on everything. But there's an allowance of what needs to come can come, and whether this is nobody moving, nobody making a sound, which it can be like that, or the whole room is shaking and rocking, and you're like, okay, I'm sort of holding this. So it's almost like the big, not even a pot, because I feel like it's not as solid as a pot, more like what are those things, like a cheese strainer cloth. Like you've got this pliable cloth that you're sort of holding, and everybody's holding each other in, and this cloth is expanding and contracting and moving and bending, and and everybody's being squeezed, and then like what's possible, what can come out of that. So it's yeah, people are going to beyond what they think their boundaries are, and beyond what they think their fears are. And sometimes this can be into a deeper fear that they didn't even know was there. So of course it can, yeah, people can be in a shaking and can be in terror sometimes. So it's like also as the facilitator not to be too serious about it. I know it sounds like the most serious situation possible, and our balance with that is to like, yeah, it's fine, and like where can we find the playfulness in that. And sometimes you're going to see stuff and you'll be laughing and thinking, I couldn't even have imagined that the scene in front of me right now. So you're going to get to hold each other in these kind of situations and spaces in September when we're together. So yeah, I think that gives us a good all round holding space ideas. And the depth of your cheesecloth, the depth of your pot, as I said before, the more that you're going into yourself, the bigger that expanse is going to be. And this then means that the people coming to you can go deeper as well. So yeah, there's always that reflection that's happening. Okay, any questions or thoughts about that? Okay. Actually, what links with this is that we can't control the room. So it could be that somebody's starting to walk around and they're going to start treading on people. And of course, we're going to just gently direct them into a place where there's space for them to walk again. But yeah, we can't control. So our ideas of what's an intense playlist, what's a gentle playlist, we don't know how people's bodies are going to interpret it. And this can be, of course, triggering for the people that are taking part in the session as well. Because after a while, you're going to get used to it, of how sometimes it can be very intense, and it will be a normal thing for you. But for people coming for the first time, and if they are hearing people screaming and crying and maybe just like beating themselves, or yeah, or maybe they open their eyes and they see that people are really shaking or in some kind of like arching their backs. It could be anything. So but just the sounds, with having that their eyes closed, of course it can be like, what is happening here? And our human nature when we hear people crying or in some kind of emotional pain is that we want to go and support them, we want to go and rescue them. So when you do your introductions at the beginning of sessions, it's important to explain that they're potentially going to hear sounds, they're going to hear people moving around, and that they don't need to be the rescuer, because this is a pattern, of course, that the majority of people are playing out about being the hero, and they don't need to be in this situation, especially. So letting them know that you're there, you're the facilitator, you're holding the space, you're supporting where support's needed. Because of course, if somebody whimpers or screams, it doesn't mean that you have to run to them immediately and like, oh, it's okay, they're there, because we don't want to shut them down either. Sometimes people have to be going through something, and you might not go to them for 10 or 15 minutes. So and again, you're going to get the feeling of this, of like, sometimes you do need to go immediately. Sometimes walking past somebody and just giving them a squeeze on their shoulder is enough. It lets them know that I see you and it's okay, I'm here. And I always think of it, if any of you have taken a first aid course, and they say about a emergency situation, and you have to work out the priority of the bodies, and what to do with who do you need to go to first. It can be a bit like that, right? Because there can be things kicking off in all directions. Who do you go to first? Because there's only one of you, maybe you have 20 people. You've got 15 of them that are screaming and beating their chests, and like, yeah. So you're going to intuitively get that pull to, okay, I need to go here. Now I need to go here. Okay, back to this place. But it's really important as the facilitator that we're not in rescuer mode, because then we're not being present, and we're not fully tuning in to the energy of the group. And you'll see it sometimes with people in your groups that, yeah, they'll, like I say, they'll hear it and they open their eyes and they immediately want to go, or they'll say in the sharing, oh, I knew that it was my friend and I wanted to go to her. And sometimes it happens, and especially in trainings as well, because people get closer over the days and going through these experiences together. So it will end up sometimes that people do hold hands, or they do end up snuggled up together. But in one-off sessions, if they don't know each other, it's less common. But usually the feeling is of this, like, there, shh, hug, shh, and shut things down. So if you see somebody doing that in your session, grab them and, like, it's okay, be on your mat, like, be with yourself, and I'm here. So yeah, so this is something. And really what we're learning by going through the training, and then the people coming to you are learning, is how to be okay in all and any emotions. So this comes back to something that's equanimity. And to me, it means that I can still feel emotions, and I can still go through very dark things that I need to look at. I can go through very cosmic things as well. But wherever I go to, I always have a center, and I can weave either side of that center as far as I need to in any direction, and I can still come back to that. Because what happens, and if you think of, like, with bipolar and psychosis, when people go in to such extremes in one direction, that they can't come back to their center, and they lose their sense of self, and they're out of their body. So again, grounding is going to help with this, but also the feeling of safety, you feeling safe in your body, that you can go to these places and still know that here is a safe place to be. And then this brings in about being the witness. So being a witness is different to bypassing. So of course you're going to get people who want to bypass things and, like, oh, okay, this is happening, but it's not happening to me, and they don't want to look at it. But it's different to this. So being the witness is, there's you, and there's the part of you that can look from another perspective, that doesn't necessarily have to relive a trauma or relive an experience again, that you can look at it from a more centered place, and more from this equanimity place within you, so that you can experience it without being completely encapsulated by it again. And this is a question that people often ask, and even my mom, she she came to one inner dance session right at the beginning and she was totally freaked out. She wouldn't let go. She was completely controlling everything. And then a few years later, because of something that I was going through, and she was saying to me, like, well, really, what's the point? Like, people are reliving these traumas and going through these things, and surely it's just better to sweep it under the carpet and move on. And I was like, oh no, this is why I'm doing this work. It was like, this is what I grew up with. I've been on this mission to like sort my own shit out, and it was such a shock for me to hear this, and but also how this can be such an easy choice to make, that just, oh yeah, no, not going there. And how when we're the witness, we can see ourselves in those emotions, because I do also feel that there is a certain amount of purging and releasing, and this like physical action of crying and the chemical reactions in our body from that. I do feel that we need to go through that for a certain amount of time, which is going to be personal to each of us. And then it's almost like I don't know, unblocking the drains once a year or something. Sometimes you need to come back to that purge time again and like, okay, and then it opens up other pathways. So yeah, so being the witness, this can then come into all parts of your life, that you can watch yourself when you're going into patterns, whether it's behavior or the words that you're saying, and you can catch it and say, actually, I know I just said this, but what I want to say is this. And then the more that you get familiar with it, you can catch it before the words even come out, or before it's even a thought. It's like, okay, I'm going into this. And then you can change it before you even say it. So being the witness is really, really important. You're witnessing as a facilitator in that role. And of course, because you're observing everybody, and witnessing without judgment. And then from the internal side, how deeply are you willing to witness yourself in all of your messiness and all of your stuff that you think you don't really want to look at, or doesn't need to be dealt with? How much can you bring a kindness to yourself through that witnessing? Okay, any thoughts on that or questions?
I've got a question. And this might be for later on, but how, for people who are new to inner dance, how much do you tell them? Like when you're setting up the space and the expectations and stuff, because you don't want to feed them what, like, this might happen and that might happen. But how do you do it?
Okay, you're just maybe 20 minutes ahead.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. I can wait.
It's
I can
coming.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So I just wanted to say something else, and then we'll have a break. Yeah, so we can't control what does or what doesn't happen. Of course, sometimes you can see people are so close to what we might think is a breakthrough, and they won't allow themselves to go there, or maybe it's just not the right time for them. And although there is an element of we're activating, we're agitating, we're kind of pushing, but there's also getting a balance in that, because we can't push, because it just isn't going to work. The nervous system is going to get too overloaded. So it's getting that balance of push and pull, and somewhere in between that's a relaxation. So yeah, we can't control. And also, if we're trying to, there's the danger that then it can go into our ego of, oh, well, I can make this happen and I can make them go to these places and I'm going to do this to this person. And this is a really dangerous place to be. And unfortunately, lots of people in all kinds of modalities do go into a much more ego-led facilitation. And there's a really nice phrase where it's service to self or service to others. And I don't necessarily like the word service, but there is an element where if you imagine that people are really bringing their energy up and the room is going to be so full of, yeah, of a lot of high vibrational energy, it's very easy for you, could be very easy for you as a facilitator to process your stuff through other people, so that you don't have to do it. It can also be easy to be like a vampire with people's energy and especially sexual energy. And this is what a lot of people do. And and also, and this is on a more extreme level, to mess around with people's energy because they're wide open, their eyes are closed, they're totally vulnerable to you as the facilitator. And this is another reason why I say about not calling in stuff or like doing Reiki symbols or things like this, so that you know that in that space it's your energy that's holding the space. And there's not anything else getting involved. Yes, if people have got other energies with them, things are going to get released. And a question that people often ask is, can there be a transference? And I feel in that space that doesn't happen, because if you've cleared the space, you've cleared the energy, you've done a shielding around it, you're going to clear the space again at the end. The people are going out shiny and new, so there isn't anything anywhere for things to latch onto. You're not giving any kind of opportunities for that. So yeah, this idea about ego and power, and that we're doing something to people, because people will phrase it in that way. When you did this to me, or when the music did that to me, it's all coming from themselves. And yes, you're there as a like that support or that little pusher, or maybe a big pusher sometimes. But ultimately it's all coming from them, and where their soul is ready and willing to go to. So it it doesn't mean that you can't own how fucking awesome you are as a facilitator, because there's also the balance in that as well. And like, yeah, I know I can really hold this deep space, and that people can like be what they need to be here. But at the same time, I don't need to control the space, and I don't need to like take from it, and in a way that's harmful to other people, because you are receiving because you're in the process as well. So that's your personal process. But it's not an intentional manipulation of energy, or with any kind of agenda of what you want to make happen. Okay. Any questions or any thoughts about that?
A question.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying how you are receiving as the facilitator. Do you ever find anybody draining you intentionally or unintentionally during the session?
No. Usually I feel really energized after the session. And people say to me, like when I do energy therapies as well, I might do 5 or 6 in a day sometimes, and I'm really sort of just do it and do it. and I might be tired in a way that's just, yeah, it's been a long day, but my spirit doesn't feel tired. Like I feel yeah, like I feel really energized from it. So this is something to look out for, that if you feel tired when you've been facilitating, it's usually about your grounding and your shielding, that you need to upgrade it in some way. And also to be really clear that you're not processing other people's stuff for them. And this can be as simple as saying to yourself, I only process what belongs to me right now, and making this part of your everyday protocol with your grounding. So yeah, this is definitely something to look out for, and it's a bit of a warning sign. And there are going to be sessions, and I found that this isn't necessarily relative to how many people are in the session, because I remember one time I had a session with only 4 people in it. It was like the going through concrete. It was just like heavy, heavy, heavy. And then I've had other times with 30, 40 people, and yes, there's been a lot going on, but there hasn't been this heaviness. So it's not so much about the amount of people. Yes, if you've got a bigger group, you're going to be running around more because you've got more people to see or more people to work on. But yeah, this is a really good question, because it's something to keep an eye on in yourself. And sometimes it can happen, and you think, oh, okay, hold on. And this is one thing I think is important, is to eat before, like, or so that you're not hungry during the session, and make sure that you've got water, just the basic things to take care of yourself. Because if you go in and you're really hungry and you haven't eaten all day, then you're going to feel more tired, of course. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that I've done some sessions and some things that have felt very, very draining, but then I've done other things that have just lifted me up. And so I've always wondered what the difference was there, and I've always put it down to alignment, what's right for me and what's wrong for me.
Mm.
But I've never had like a daily shielding or grounding practice.
Yeah, it really, really makes a difference. Yeah. Yeah. And this also goes into if you get really emotional when you're facilitating, because emotions come up. That, like, sometimes I've been laughing so much in a session, I've cried, and when this is when I'm facilitating, and I've had sessions where I've cried at certain points, or I've felt something like just an emotion that's run through me. But if you get into a state where you're so emotional, that you can't facilitate, then of course this is going to be a problem, because you're the person being responsible for everybody. And I've had this has happened when I've been co-facilitating with people, and then other facilitators have told me it's happened when they've been with other people, where the person they're facilitating with has suddenly flopped on the floor, tears, like inconsolable, because they've gone so much into the process and they can't facilitate anymore. So then it's like, with me, it was left then to me, and with the ones that told me, then it was left to them. And in that moment, there's not really much you can do, because they're just in it. But it's important to have that consideration when you're facilitating, if you co-facilitate with others, that you're not looking to them as being the rescuer, that, oh, it's okay, I can let go because they're here and they'll take care of everything. Because if you've agreed to co-facilitate, you also have to take responsibility for that. So, but if you're on your own, and yeah, and you keep feeling overwhelmed with emotions, because sometimes you touch people, and like for me, sometimes I've had all kinds of horrible visions and things of what their body has been through, and I and it can feel like a shock to my body to see that and think like, and then seeing, yeah, whatever movement, or they're crying, and seeing them going through that and thinking, okay, is what I'm seeing what they're going through right now? Is this what they're processing? Or maybe they don't even know anything about it. Like I had somebody one time, and it wasn't maybe nearly a year later, and she came to me and said that she'd realized that she'd been abused as a child, and it had come to her several months after the inner dance session, but she realized something had opened up that had allowed her to remember. Whereas in that session, I already knew. I didn't know, of course, the ins and outs of it or anything, but I knew that her body had been through that, but I couldn't say anything because of the situation. So sometimes we can, I mean, we pick up really beautiful things as well. You can see the potential of somebody, of what, yeah, the potential of who they can be, and you can't always tell them this, but you can see, yeah, these really happy things as well. So sometimes it can feel like a lot to hold, and this was why the conversation with my mum. But if we're taking that on board, then this is how and you see lots and lots of therapists and clairvoyants as well who get cancer, and this is something that comes up again and again in the holistic world, because people are processing other people's emotions through their bodies. So yeah, it's really important to have that awareness.
And so then how do you differentiate? Like, how do you know when it's your stuff versus when you're processing someone else's stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. So going back to the idea of mirroring, I feel that emotion in me because there's some similarity with the emotion in them. And this could be to a lesser or more degree than they're feeling it. And often you don't even know what it is. So if I feel that something comes up, like I might get tears in my eyes, or it could be that I burp or that I cough. Some people burp all the time when they're facilitating, and it's a lot of people say that it's their way of clearing energy. But I feel that when you're doing it all the time and all the way through, it can be a bit too much. If for me a warning sign is if I cough, and it's like there's no reason for me to cough, and suddenly I'll get this tightness, and like I'll start to cough, and I think okay, this is like, yeah, it's like my warning sign of processing maybe a bit too much for somebody else, or like, because there can be there can be a resonance, and then there can be resonance. So when it's that really strong resonance, that's when your body can also go more into the process. So what I do is that if some tears need to come, or if I need to laugh, I shake my body, or I just feel something, just like I work on someone, and I make sure that I breathe. This is important, and out through my mouth. I shake my body, I dance. You can also dance in the space as well between people and go to them. You don't have to be in this super serious, like I'm the official facilitator here. So move your body, because energy is moving in you while you're facilitating. So this is one way, and you can move it out. You can step back from facilitating for 5 minutes and just do what your body needs to do. And then also acknowledging that there is an emotion there. So it can sometimes be that you think, okay, I know what this is about. I know that you're there. I'm coming back to you later. This is like saying to myself, like, I'm gonna come back to you later, but I've seen you and I feel you. But in this moment, I need to be present here. And then I know that the next day, the next week or something, this is something that I need to look at. And then so I'm not repressing it, I'm not bypassing it, and I'm not losing myself in it. So you're giving yourself space to acknowledge that there is something. Yeah, so these are the ways that I've found.
And then the other way around, so like, how would I know if accidentally I'm making one of the participants process my stuff? Like, how would I know that's happening?
This I would say it's in a more conscious way, like you have that intention to, yeah. So say you were working on somebody and they're crying, and then you feel something come up, and that you're thinking, okay, you can deal with this for me, like this sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so people do stuff like that, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. Or if you were, things were coming up for you, and you're watching the room, and then you're like, okay, room, take it. You know? So so it would be something that's done in a very conscious, like, I'm putting this onto you. Yeah.
It's an unpleasant thought. Yeah.
Say that again.
That's an unpleasant thought. It's never really crossed my mind.
No, it never crossed my mind, but I've come across people doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me a bit curious about who I go into a space with.
Yeah. I think it's good to, even though we know that we're not going to do something like that, but it's good to be aware of these kind of things, because if you think of like Star Wars and going to the dark side, when you facilitate and you see that you touch somebody's body and there's a response, that because you might do this and they scream, this can happen. My face is getting redder and redder because I put the aircon off. It's like so when this happens more and more, and you see people releasing because of what you think you're doing, this can then go into the ego, which can then be like a power trip, and it can, almost without realizing it can be easy to step onto that, because you can feel how much power is there, how much power is in the room, and you're the line in between that. And so I feel that although I felt that, like, I felt how much power is there, but I've never had the feeling of, oh, I could just, just this once I could do that. And I feel that part of that is also the equanimity. It's like I can have the awareness that there's huge power within me and huge power generated within a dance session, but I can stay as a witness to that, and I can work within that, and I don't need to manipulate anything or take anything from there. But at the same time, I can stand with one foot in the shadows and one foot in the light, and I can feel comfortable with that. And that's what we're doing, because people are going into all the different parts of themselves, of what we consider shadows and lightness and darkness and everywhere. And that's part of the holding space, that we've got a foot in feet in all worlds and all possible realms, but we can not be infiltrated, maybe that's the word, or not be lured into something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Can I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
I would say I think you can feel it as well. So when I did the first inner dance training, I came home so excited, and I'd got a good friend at the time, and I went and told him all about it, and I was all bubbling over with it. And I went to his breathwork class that he plays music through, and I'm flipping round like a fish. And the next week, and then we went and I told him about it afterwards. The next week, I went to his breathwork class, and I was aware of him doing something, and I'd told him what I talked about, you know, the course and what I was going to be going to do. And maybe prior to that, I've been to workshops and different things and wouldn't have known, but I did know, and I at the end, and he was a good friend at the time. He's drifted away now, but it just felt off in my stomach, and it was like, whatever you think you're doing, I don't think you know what you're doing, and I don't want you to do that to me again. So it did come up, but like I say, I think it heightens your awareness as well.
Yeah, definitely. That brings the awareness, doesn't it? Yeah, and this is, I'm giving extreme examples here of these different things, so I'm not trying to make you feel worried, but I think it's the inner awareness that we're cultivating, because if you think about the stories of old, of priests and priestesses and Atlantis and these times where people manipulated the powers that they had, there's no difference really to today. It's just showing up in different ways, and everybody has had lifetimes where they've manipulated power. It's impossible, and so we all have that element within us, and maybe some to more degrees than others. But and of course there are these parts of us that do like power and do like to feel in control, but it's what we do with that power that's what the difference is. And it really, we don't want to have a strict control over ourselves, which is different to having discipline with ourselves, and we definitely don't want to be controlling others and having any kind of manipulation with them. So it can also be interesting in that way for you or for us personally to it can lead to another path of inquiry, maybe about lifetimes where there's been misuse of power, and maybe this time it's like you brought a little test to yourself of, okay, what are you going to choose this time with this? How is it going to go? So yeah, just other ways to think about it. Okay, let's have a break. I was going to give you a break 20 minutes ago, and then we started talking more. So I'll just pause. Okay, take a big breath and have a shake. So you could look at this inner dance as a training for life in many, many ways. And a big part of that is learning how to regulate our own emotions so that we're not flung this way and flung this way. We can have the experience of being flung, but not have to buy into it, if that makes sense. Just like, okay, yeah, this is fucking with me, or yeah, this is really upsetting. And I know that I can express those emotions because it's like having an effect, or I'm allowing it to have an effect on myself. But I can then come back to my center again, so I don't have to be wallowing in it. And this is important for the dark night of the soul. So when we have that stage in a session, that it allows that time for the wallowing and for being a victim and for feeling sorry for ourselves. But we can also come out and up from that as well. and onto a different level of understanding. So this comes into regulation of emotions with the regulation of our nervous system, because we've been so conditioned to be in action, be stressed, be on time, follow the rules, and you're a terrible person if you aren't in this structure. And how much of an effect this has on our nervous system and our ability to relax, and on our sleep, and everything, to make decisions. And even with films and series today, it's all, if you've watched Fast and Furious or anything like that, or in Lost, that series, I like that series though, but it's like no one eats, no one goes toilet, no one shaves, like no one has a period. They're not doing these normal bodily things. It's just go, 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 and then crazy stunts, jumping out of planes and then surviving, and watching that. Yes, it's a good way to have a switch off from life, but the effect it's having in our bodies is causing more stress. And I always feel, if there's violence, I mean, on one hand, I really love martial arts films, but I feel it's an art. So it's like violence in an artistic way. And I really love them. If it's sort of mindless violence, and of course with women, with animals and things, then I'm completely, it's like I've got better at not living the experience as I'm watching it. And but I can feel it as something really visceral in my body. And of course, the more sensitive and the more tuned in we become to bodies, even watching it, this is where the mirror neurons come in the brain. Watching somebody making an action, our body can act as if we're also going through that as well. So when we're in these adrenalized films and things, it's pumping up the adrenaline in our body. And this is also what it's designed to do, to keep us on the edge. So when we're going into inner dance, of course, there's an element of that, because if we were only in the rest and digest and nice and chilled yoga nidra, we're on a sort of constant line and we're nice and relaxed. We're not going to move from that because it's really nice. We're not going to want to kind of put any extra efforts in or anything, because we're happy and chilled and we feel really comfortable there. So we have then this balance, or these polarities between the two, where we're coming in to the session and we've got the space, the facilitator, we feel that we can trust, and we feel that, okay, I can be what I need to be here. And then in the first stage with that, but then we're bringing in, through the music, through our touch, through our words, we're bringing in this kind of angst, or this like pushing and stirring things up, so that people then get pushed more another way. And then we again bring back the relaxation. So I've got my beam chart here. So thinking of the disintegration, stage 5, and we go back to delta, this is allowing the rest and digest to come back in. So our relaxation in our body, and through that relaxation we can expand more, and then it builds and builds and builds again, and there's more of it can be more stress, but not necessarily in a way that's stress of what we think in everyday life. It can be the realizations we're having, it can be pains in the body, it can be difficult emotions that are coming up, or difficult memories. And then we also get to Dark Night of the Soul, and there's a more expanded time of rest and digest as well, that's still got an element of pushing. So we're all the time like a concertina, going this way, going that way, because we need this, so that it's like a birth canal. you're getting squeezed, and then there's a straight bit, and then shaken up again. And this is where the alchemical process happens. And often people will find that their bodies get hotter as emotions are coming up. Of course, if they're moving a lot, they're going to get hot, because it's the heat that causes transformation within. So whether this is making metal into gold, or our bodies or our souls becoming the gold, there has to be a friction that's happening that brings uncomfortableness. Otherwise, if everything is fine and life's easy and we're a trust fund kid, and like we inherit a house and an island, why would we make changes in our life? Because we think that maybe we have everything that we want to. It's through the disturbances that push us into change, and that push us to evolve. So this is what we're doing. And in the documents that Kerry set up, there's one which is about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So if you have a read through that, and it explains a bit more in depth about what's happening, and it's instigating, the fight or flight, like I need to run, I need to survive, there's a tiger chasing me, or the I can just breathe, and I'm lying on a beach and I can let go, and everything's good. However, for lots of people, even when they are lying on a beach, they still have the stress is still happening, because we're so primed for it. So through all the different layers within a dance session, the music, the touch, the cues or the words, the sounds, maybe with your voice or maybe with instruments, all of that is the adding to the recipe of the pushing and pulling, and where that person chooses at some level to go to, because they are choosing, even if they're not aware of it, they're directing the inner journey for themselves. And this will make more sense when we're there together, and you'll get to practice, but you'll get the feeling in your body of when things are rising, when the energy is rising in the room to a crescendo, and that you need to do some big bang, or you need to shake something, or maybe it's to just touch one person in one spot at that exact moment, because that's going to create the explosion through the room, or maybe it's to do nothing. And this, with practice, it will become clearer, and you'll follow the energy that's happening in the space. So in terms of that, what I just said of touching one person and it has an effect on the whole room, this is like a ripple effect that often happens, where somebody will act as the plug, and they're pulling everybody down or in with them, and somebody else can be resistance and can be keeping the room stuck. And these are things, again, to look out for, and that you'll get to notice. Sometimes you, as the facilitator, can be the resistance. This is also interesting because of the fears that you might have, or of what's happening in your life. And other times you can be the mostly you're the plug, or the plug hole, I should say. So so it can be this sort of drop, or this switch that happens. And the first delta drop is really important for this. So stage 5, again, disintegration, because it's like a glass ceiling that is obliterated, and then it opens the channels to go to where they need to go to. And this, again, it's quite strange actually explaining this without actually being together doing it physically, because it's like, you're gonna feel it, or you're gonna see it. And lots of this I know that we'll speak about again when we're together in person, because it will come up and you'll have questions, and yeah. So we have these drop points where the whole room will go. And also where you'll feel a lot of tension in the room, where the stress levels or the cortisol levels are rising. So from there, I want to show you a video. It's a few minutes, and it's a bit 80s, but I don't know why I always use this video. And it's about something called the Vesica Pisces or Vesica Pisces. And I think one reason I like it is because this guy is obviously so enthusiastic about Vesica Pisces. It's like he lives his life in this. And also in the documents, there's one that's about this, and it's got a diagram, but you're going to see diagrams in the video. But with Vesica Pisces, now this is when I need my wall to write on. So thinking of the brain waves and the ups and downs of the fight or flight or rest or digest. If we want change to happen, there's no point being on a continuous line. So it can't be a continuous line of rest and digest, and it can't be a continuous line of angst, stress. There has to be an up and down so that they can work together. Okay, now my belly dance moves come into practice when I've not got a wall. So you've got rest and digest, and then you've got fight or flight, and usually one is happening or the other's happening. But in innerdance, what we're doing, we're bringing them both together to create frictions and eruptions or stillness. So if you think of it like this, like the brain waves are moving, hang on, this way. Brain waves are moving up and down and crisscrossing each other. And also our nervous system is doing the same thing. So we're relaxing one part so that stress or an emotion or an experience can then rise to the surface, and then this gets to a point maybe where it explodes or it gets like into resistance again. And so we bring the rest and digest, like it's safe, it's okay, like you're all right here. And then this rises, and then through the relaxation rising, it gives space that the stress can also rise. And so we get this constant movement going in and out, which sometimes one can be longer, like a longer wave. Sometimes one can be really fast, and there's a lot of shaking and purging that's happening. And you could also think of it as expansion and contraction. So they're expanding from each other, and then these cross points where you get the heat or the friction, and then expanding, contracting, expanding, contracting. And this is what's happening in the body in every level, because remember, our body is absorbing the vibration as well of the music that's being played. So it's massaging the cells, the internal organs, it's sending a different frequency through them. And in this particular order, one after the other, that's taking them also into a massaging of being pushed and pulled as well. So this shape, Vesica Pisces, that you'll see in a moment, so it's like two circles without my fingers here. So like this. And this place in the middle where they cross over is a void point or 0 point. So you could liken it to the womb or to a black hole in space, or to a point within ourselves of complete disintegration, where we might be feeling all these emotions, we might be doing lots of movement, but we come to this 0 point inside us where we are everything, and all of this stuff falls away because it's not so important when you become everything. All these everyday things that are jabbing at us, they have to dissolve, because what we are is so much bigger than that, and what we can hold is so vast, and that we're told that we aren't. So that 0 point is, it could be a disintegration, it could be a realization of something like, yes, okay, this is how I'm going to change the situation, this is the action I'm going to take. It could be of peace, total peace, like, okay, I can't control this anymore, and all my life I've been trying to control things, and actually what I need to do is let go, and the transition that comes from that. And then it can also create many death thing, like last week I was saying about the dying to ourselves, and this sort of death point of stillness, of nothing, and what are we going to do from there? And it's one of the most ancient symbols that you find in all kinds of cultures, all types of temples, and it's part of the flower of life as well when you expand it more and more and more. And on the document that I did for this, there's some links. There's the video we're going to watch now, and then there's a couple of other ones as well, and they've also got some other information in them. So it's it's a good image to have in your mind of when you're creating your playlists, and so that you can get a variety within it, and it's not just on the same tempo or same style of song. Okay, any questions or thoughts for that? No. All right, so I am going to do a screen share. Come on. Where are you? This one. If you can let me know. I can't see you all actually. Yeah, now I've got you. Okay, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it and see it.
Point A around point B, that makes a circle. But these two single points are clones, and those 2 points have equal potential. So not only can point A rotate around point B, but point B can also rotate around point A. This is one radius that both circles share. That black form in the middle there, that's called the vesica piscis or the vesica piscis, depending on what you prefer. The vesica piscis is literally the womb of the universe. This is the whole essence of the universe. I'm not kidding. Sounds like a real crazy thing to say, but 2 circles of common radius, and this shape in the middle that it makes, called the vesica piscis, is the whole root of sacred geometry. Literally, every single thing that exists, and I'm not kidding, everything that exists springs out of this womb, this football-like shape. It sounds like a wild, improbable, crazy thing to say, but it's absolutely true. Everyone pretty much agrees. The universe is created by division. That ultimate mystery, that great creative force, which is the all, God mind, unity consciousness, that oneness divides and becomes duality, and voila, the Big Bang. God mind as single-pointedness divides and becomes duality, and all relationship begins right there. And out of this relationship, of course, two circles of common radius and the vesica Pisces. Vesica Pisces. So let's look a little closer at this vesica Pisces, huh? Right there it is, that's it. When we get to four circles of common radius, which naturally evolve out of these points C and D, the vesica Pisces is in the middle. But we have now 5 vesica Pisces inside 4 circles of common radius. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, interesting. With the creation of those points C and D, we have within the vesica Pisces a triangular situation. So we started with unity, we evolved into duality, and now we have an evolution to trinity. This is the birthplace of trigonometry, an entire division of mathematics born in the vesica Pisces. Huh? Those 2 points, C and D, bisect the vesica Pisces and create the cross in the center and a new center, point X. So this introduces the transcendental nature of this pattern. It slips all the way into infinity and all the way out to infinity with smaller and smaller and smaller overlapping circles and larger and larger and larger overlapping circles, all the way to infinity. So, you can't learn about the vesica Pisces in a few minutes. This is an unbelievably deep and rich form, literally the womb of the universe. Everything that is springs out of the vesica Pisces, everything. All unfolding and spiraling and spiraling and spiraling into what we see as this manifest universe. We are sacred geometry. We spring right out of the vesica Pisces. Omnipresent principles of the universe. That is what sacred geometry is. And the vesica Pisces, or the vesica Pisces, is right in the heart of that.
In the heart. I like it how they've even got his like a purr or something on there as well at one point. So there's a couple of reasons. I mean, Pi talked more about vesica Pisces when I first trained with him as well. But for me personally, why I find it interesting is because Tesla talks about the 3, 6, and 9 and the rhythm of the universe. And if you saw when he showed the geometric, it was 30, 60, 90 degrees, and saying that this is the basis of the quantum universe. I'll have to see if I can find a thing that about Tesla specifically about that. So if you don't know about him, he's a really interesting scientist, alien man to look about. And then the other reason is what he showed when it was the whole screen of the flower of life covering everything and moving in and moving out. I've seen, I don't know, this realm as that, and it's not very often as an adult. It did happen a few months ago though, but as a child I saw this all the time. And when I was in bed and my dad would come and say, "Oh, why have you still got the light on? It's 2 a.m." And because I couldn't sleep, and I would say, I can see what the universe is made of. And I didn't know I was seeing this flower of life, sacred geometry. But it was only in my 20s when I saw it, and I was like, this is what I used to see. And my dad would say, okay, whatever, just go to sleep. And but yeah, it's occasionally I see it, and it's almost like these, like in the Matrix film, like these layers and layers and layers of geometric patterns. And also from the awakened belly dance side, all of these shapes, this is what we're making with our body when we're doing those movements. So there's a lot within that, and of course, however deeply you want to go into it, and then with the Tesla theories as well. And he was working on all kinds of things like directed energy weapons and free energy, free electricity, because he said that electricity was in the ether, like we are electricity, and it's all around us, and that it can be harnessed from what we think is nothingness, and yeah, can be free and available to everybody. But of course, Thomas Edison didn't like this. So electricity took a different turning. But yeah, he's very interesting. Okay, so I did have one planned, but I'm thinking to change it. And what I said about going through the order of a session and about what to say to people and everything, I think I'm going to do that next week. And also about the cues as well. So it's like they all kind of work together about, yeah, it's the topic of speaking, of things to talk about. And then I was thinking now we could do a one wave playlist, and this is one of Kerry's, and it's in the newer style of inner dance. So it's not so much following the stages as such or in an obvious way. There's more of a melding that's happening. And this is also in the document, so you'll be able to get it and download it. So how does that sound? Have a little lie down for the last part and let your brains go. Right. Now I have to screen share again to find I was prepared. Yeah. Yeah. Can you give me thumbs up? I'll play it. Yeah. So lie down, close your eyes, and give yourself permission to experience whatever is needed right now. Yeah, so slowly bringing yourself back. Just take your time. If your fingers and toes a wiggle, and take a deep breath into your belly. Stretch. Thanks for that, Kerry. It's lovely. I really felt it in my heart. Ah, okay. Does anyone want to share anything, or shall I leave you to snooze?
I really loved it. I found it really, yeah, energizing. I could feel vibration all in my body. And when the intensity built, it's like my head was just like a cauldron of fire inside. I had generated so much heat. I thought 1 minute my head was going to sort of like this heat was going to sort of burst out the top. And I could feel all this sort of like real vibrating in my head. And yeah, I felt like it's like I'd had like a really good workout without actually moving, which was quite nice, quite pleasant. And yeah, really, really liked it. I didn't want it to stop.
Mm. 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 I felt not so much of a workout like you feel. I felt more like I had a nice sleep without being asleep.
Mhm.
Oh, mm. Does anyone else like to share?
I've got such strange things going on in my brain. Um, for me, it was just like spiraling backwards in my brain. Can't quite describe it any other way than that. I think I'm a little bit still not here. I'm gonna play with my feet for a while.
Thanks, Catherine. Anybody? Or we can say good night for now. Good night it is then. Yeah. Thanks for your focus and attention again, everybody. I know it's so much to take in. Yeah. Last theory in this way next week. And yeah, those couple of documents, I'll write it in the message group to remind you what to look at. Yeah. Okay. Well, sweet dreams.
Then thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.